literally obliterated the previous world.
The universe.
Yeah. And then came in with a new game system using the traditional models. Now,
But very different.
yes. So the style of gameplay was very different, and it alienated a lot of the original fan base.
I was like, let's be serious. It alienated everyone.
Everything. Yeah.
Because you go to a game store and they have all these games like, all right, this is your army you can build, like regardless of what game. Usually, here's your army.
Yeah.
Here's your points that you can spend on the army. They have a structured set. Yeah. But then there's like, no structured set.
Yeah.
Just play. It's like, how?
And so this was basically almost like the death of a game heard everywhere, heard around the world,
Yeah.
in a sense. So we now have a couple of games coming out with very similar campaigns or storylines going on, and
Which ones?
so the big one that's making a lot of waves right now is War for the Spark with Magic, the Gathering.
snap.
So this is the culmination of one of the big bads in the setting. An evil dragon named Nicol Bolas has, throughout the last several years, been piecing together this giant.
Is that really how you say it?
Nicol Bolas? Good old Nicky B.
Nicky.
Yeah.
Has been piecing together this like giant Rube Goldberg contraption for a nefarious purpose that we don't know. And so War for the Spark is the conclusion to it. So he sets war to this one planet, Ravnica, which is Magic's most popular setting.
Right.
Why
And
not go back to it?
right, like let's set it there. And then they bring in all of the most popular characters from Magic's history and basically force them into sides. Either you're on the Elder Dragon side or you're against him. Now, the big issue is all these characters are coming together. They're killing off characters. They're making new alliances. They're
Like
doing all this.
killing off Star Wars style, or killing off actually killing off?
As
Because no
far-
one's ever really gone.
Right.
Okay, just check.
Cute evil laughter. That.
That one.
And so they're killing off these characters, and we assume for good, because this is a
Right.
very different style of story that they've told with their cards. And also with that, the power level is going up with some of the cards. So
Well, inflation, it's fine.
Yeah. It's very enticing for new or returning players, which was once again the point of End Times, was to get people excited about the game again. Or get excited about the game. So when they kill it, they're going to be into the new one. Anyways, so the
Magic
issues,
the regathering.
right? I don't believe that like Magic is going to be doing a new edition or anything like that. But
Okay.
this is a hey.
What if they did it with round cards, though?
I mean, that would be great.
That would be so cool.
No mana casts round cards.
Right.
Discs
Yeah.
you just like frisbee onto the
Yeah.
table.
Disc Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like Beyblade, but with cardboard cards.
So
Yes.
this is and so the End Times comparison hasn't really been made a whole lot for Magic the Gathering, but it's something to where it feels very similar in terms of like a story's perspective, and how hey, they're doing this, they're putting all of these like high profile story elements together in one thing in order to draw people in.
Right.
So-
And the issue that I have with like the End Times effect and sort of that is the follow-up, right?
Right.
Games Workshop didn't have to worry about a follow-up because they just nuked it.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we don't have to worry about the next big thing because we're doing a reset, right?
Right.
Now, and this is also going on in War Machine and Hordes, which I'll talk about.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, so when you do this like big kind of like apocalyptic style of event, where do you go from there? What do you do to readjust the balance, the setting,
So
the scale?
Here's the thing though that Magic has an issue with, I think, is that cards tell the story as well. The flavor text
Right.
in the cards,
Right.
what you see in the cards. So like for example, you see like, oh, I see this person dying. I see a memorial
Yeah.
for this person, or I see like, oh, this is where I have a little bit of trouble with them selling the books of the story unless you're like, gotta know how.
Yeah.
But you see like this person gets defeated, this person gets killed. Like perhaps even the ending of the book.
So
Ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ish. Especially with the setting, there's several red herrings. terms of like how you think the story is going to go, and what you need to read, like all the articles in the books and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But we'll talk about the War Machine one. War Machine's coming out with a campaign book this summer called Oblivion, and Oblivion, translated, is the end, right?
Right.
Like no mas. And what happens is one of the story's big bads is coming to the world of War Machine and Hordes, and coming there to collect everyone's souls.
Nickel
And
Ballast or something.
the Infernals.
Ah, okay.
So it's just human souls, right?
And anyone that gets in the way, right?
The machines have
so-
souls?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
All the clockwork guys have souls.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is this extraplanar force coming in, almost like demons in Warhammer Fantasy, to retrieve as many souls as possible.
Like Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
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 Similar to that as well. Now, this is something like these bad guys, these Infernals, have been hinted at in the background, the fiction, for years and years and years, and there's been a slow build up to them coming back into the game. Now, Oblivion, we also know that there's a game coming out this fall called Riot Quest. So what happens in Oblivion, the timeline fragments into two different timelines. One for the War Machine and Hordes timeline, one for the Riot Quest one.
I think we're starting to get into Star Trek territory.
Yeah.
Right. So
Like Prime
the-
Universe, Kelvin Universe,
well,
and all that.
There's a bunch of time mages running around in the War Machine.
Oh,
setting.
God, okay.
Yeah. So
Gets better.
It gets kind of crazy.
So what ends up happening is, once again, it's this end times thing. So big bad guys showing up, and we just got the CID for the Oblivion, so we're testing some of the rules that are coming out in the book.
Ooh.
So once again, nations that were usually viewed at war with each other now are forming alliances, in which you can play them together in the game, which is actually really cool for the fact that, hey, this is changing up how you can play, what models you can own, and do all that. Really exciting for people. But in a miniature-based setting, a lot of folks are starting to draw that end times comparison where they're like, hey, listen, this feels a lot like the end times because all of these elements are coming together in a very similar fashion.
Yeah.
And whether it's true or not, it's still, as someone who plays a miniature game, a little bit scary because, oh no, what's going to happen to my investment of miniatures
Right.
if for some reason they decide to do a big rules change or an edition change or even just dramatically redo how the game works, right?
Change triangle bases.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Or who knows, like no factions, no points, just play with the models you want. Like,
Open play.
yeah, which, it's fine from a narrative perspective, but a lot of people enjoy these miniature games. And I will always talk to folks about it, like in terms of a selling point to this game, or miniature games in general, is that they do have a refined rule set in
Right.
which you have to play with relatively balanced armies. And this is great with folks who have either difficulty like socializing or something like that, because you get a very structured social engagement, right? Like, when me and Mark play a 50-point game of War Machine and Hordes, we know our armies are going to be relatively balanced against each other. We know how the rules are going to interact, and then I can engage with Mark in a social way where there are clear defined rules, right? The open play stuff, you take a little bit of that out, and it can become very one-sided, or
Right.
the perception is, oh, hey, Mark just brought better models than me because he has a wider collection.
Like,
or,
for example,
yeah.
like, oh, how do we do it? Oh, well, let's do wound count, right?
Yeah.
So I bring 20 elites and you bring 20 grunts.
Right.
Right.
And so, but that's a little bit of a tangent, a ramble, if you will, about that. But
So in the comments,
Yeah.
folks are talking about potentially like doing the end time effect for 40K.
we had that.
Andrew says, do an AOS bomb for 40K, and then Mitchell says not bomb, but do another Horus Heresy type of thing.
Yeah.
Where how do you take, because the volume is already at like 110% for all
Yeah.
the things happening in 40K.
Correct.
What do you do now to take it up, like to either change it up somehow?
Yeah. Right.
Just
So,
silence.
so a lot of people don't realize this, but the change from 7th to 8th edition was a very similar effect with End Times.
Right.
Bringing Gilliman back, bringing Yurnari in, the fall of Cadia. Like, these were all big story points, which
Psychiatric maledicture.
yeah.
Maledictum.
The big warp opening.
Uh-huh.
These were all story elements that changed to allow the game to change and have it become available to a wider audience.
I will say though, with 40K, the fact that they had multiple worlds, they basically just have sections
Yeah.
that could go away, and the greater, I guess, lore of the universe stay the same.
Yep.
Was fine. With Warhammer Fantasy, you had one planet,
Yeah.
and
Right.
And it's hard to say,
Yeah.
like, maybe they blow up a continent, but, like, depending on the continent, either
Yeah, that-
80% of the factions are
Right,
there or
exactly.
a faction. So it doesn't affect the setting as a whole.
Because the main continent has Kislev and like all of that.
yeah,
right?
yeah. So,
That one big one.
but with 40K, it happened, and they
Right.
survived, and it brought us into one of the newer editions, one of the most popular editions that we've
oh, yeah,
had so
definitely,
far.
Right.
I think the most.
And that's tough. Like you have 18, 17 factions currently available.
Yeah, and they're supposedly they're adding another one in this year.
Right, Sisters of Battle, we know. For
Yeah,
sure.
no,
But
but
like
like
a different alien, maybe.
yeah.
If you
so
did the survey, you can win a plastic
Now-
Sisters of Battle army.
Yeah.
this is also something to where they could say, hey, let's say Emperor's Children comes out. They're like,
Uh-huh.
that's our new faction.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, it's a new faction, but it is comprised of models that we've already known and seen and, like, we already know about in the fluff. But, like,
Right.
let's say they come out with another new alien, which is, like,
The Light Angels.
yeah,
Which
some,
one?
yeah, the
Harad?
Crud, or the Harad. They could do the Harad, they could do the
The-
Slan, they could do...
The Slan. Oh my
Yeah.
The
god,
Hood are
that
like
would be amazing.
lizard-ish men as well, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of other races that could easily come back.
Squats.
Like squats.
Squats.
But the mindful thing is when people get concerned about end times like events is that there is the same company has both done it well and done it jarringly.
Yeah. I'm
Try
gonna
not
say-
to.
I'm
I
gonna
know
say
there's
horribly.
differing opinions, but it's really important to know that it's not always a negative thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say, Games Workshop definitely experimented hard with Age of Sigmar, and
Yeah.
they learned when they did it with 40K
Yeah.
how to do it differently. And I think everyone's going to take note of what happened to Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
I think Privateer Press is already taking note with what happened with the transition from Mark II to Mark III.
Yeah.
Right.
So they know not to do something super crazy, but
Right.
still have something. Basically, I'm not saying that they won't go crazy with it, but they know what sections to avoid and what sections to focus on as far as transitions go.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's if you hand me that rule book right there. So Wild West Exodus is set in Western U.S., but they did something smart and they said we're gonna release something in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Like, dude, what? They have a great lore reason for it. If you watch the interview that I
Have you-
did with,
have you seen like the Lost World, anything like that?
Yeah,
That kind
it
of
fits in the
situation.
setting.
Or Shangri-La.
right. And then a couple of folks here saying effectively what the folks here in the comments are saying is, we have the balance of power, which is the Imperium's on top, and then Chaos is the main antagonist. And then not a whole lot happens in that power shift. Planet gets lost here, planet gets lost
Yeah.
there. But I think that the scale of what's happening and what they're trying to do, they're trying to increase it. With
Yeah.
like what you're saying before about the
Pretty sure
warp
what's
storms.
happening right now is affecting the entire galaxy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's just I think maybe more stories on Eldar and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so 40K, Mark brought it up, but they have a lot of buffering. They have a lot of safety in what they can do because let's say a major planet in the story falls, Cadia.
Right.
Let's throw that out there.
Did that happen?
If Armageddon fell,
Yeah, like let's say that planet gets wiped out completely. Does that stop the game functioning the way it is normally? No. Does it give you lore reasons for why your Cadians are now super mad at Chaos? Yes.
Right.
The big issue with like games like War Machine and Hordes, games like Magic, games like Fantasy is you have these worlds that are so integral to the story that like having something where that world goes away, like let's say in Magic Ravnica goes away, that would be such a huge blow to the community. Because Ravnica is probably one of the biggest characters
Right.
in Magic. People identify with it. There's 10 guilds there. People usually say, oh, hey, I identify with this guild more than anything else. And then to lose that, like decks are still called by those guild names. Like let's say
Right.
if you're running blue, green, and Magic, you're a Simic deck. Well, that's from Ravnica. It doesn't matter what world you're currently playing in Magic. People will still call that deck a Simic deck. So it is when you lose a world like that, it is a big blow to the player and the community itself, losing something. I know Cadia was a big example, but having Cadia be destroyed or ravaged, it doesn't stop Cadians from existing because it's an entire system.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so what would you say about, because they have done that in Magic, they have essentially lost a plane when Mirrodin got transformed into new
Yeah,
Phyrexia.
but that was really smart because everyone hated Mirrodin.
Yeah, I will agree
right.
with you there.
Well, Star Wars. I mean, the
Yeah, everyone hated Alderaan. I agree.
just thinking about them.
David, Will Pagani says hi.
How's
Yeah,
it going,
Will, where are you? You could be here.
Yeah.
So they just when you change things for a new generation, or you're trying to make things and shift things up.
Yeah.
They're gonna end the Skywalker saga with Episode 9, and then after that, they probably, I don't know if it'll be in Episode 10.
Yeah.
But it could be in Episode 1 of a different saga.
Right.
And that is probably how they'll do that. I think that would be a smart thing.
And Star Wars is actually a really great example, because when you raise the stakes to, let's say,
Blowing
Ju-
up an entire system with a panic code.
or destroying a planet and then overthrowing a evil galactic empire, what do you do to continue the series?
Right.
Do you
Right.
do the exact same thing over again?
Of course.
That would be crazy. Why would you do that? So the issue
That's not
of
a moon. Wait, no, that is a moon this time.
the issue of scale is a big thing.
Right.
Where you
And that's what I
can't-
meant when I said the volume is up
Yeah.
so high, because you have to constantly raise volume to get the tension keep going, right?
Exactly. And so, once again, End Times, there is literally nothing you can do after End Times to make something feel as big, right? Think about miniature war games or tabletop in general as Saturday morning cartoon or comic book style storytelling. At the end of the day, the stakes have to be reset,
Everybody
right?
knows where they were when Optimus Prime died.
Yeah. So, what David said.
In the movie theater?
Because if you don't reset the scale or the stakes, then you don't have anywhere to go, right? You have to return things back to the way it was.
Star Trek had Deep Space Nine and the Dominion War.
Yeah.
But then after that, what do? You
Yeah,
go back
exactly.
exploring? It seems kind of boring after that.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why they took Voyager
Right.
and they flung it over to the other side of the
Right.
galaxy. Because, once again, the scales had been raised so high in that one section, they're like, okay, cool, we have to go tell a different style of story because we can't keep going. We can't keep amping
So it seems
things
like a
up.
catch-22 then.
Yeah.
So then, what is there something that companies can do that can?
So once again, look at Saturday morning cartoons. Look at things like that, where let's say they wanted to keep Warhammer Fantasy Battles going. Well, what they're going to do, and what Magic has done, which was really smart, is you reset the stakes. You stop the apocalypse. Maybe you kill a few characters. You kill the really powerful ones.
Oh, this is
Or-
anime.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
I've defeated you. Next master boss.
you reset the scales in a thing. Let's say Nagash, Lord of Undead, bringing about massive despair and blah blah blah.
Cool dude.
Yeah, no, great guy. But at the end of the story, maybe Nagash had to seal away some of his power to keep the world safe. Maybe Tyrion and Teclis, who ascended to godhood, were like, we are so powerful now that...
Those the elves, right?
Yeah, the Elven brothers. They ascend to God, and then they end up leaving the setting because, hey, we're powerful enough, we have to
Well-
protect the other world, kind of
Well,
thing.
for those that know the Warhammer Fantasy lore, there was Teclis was one of the just master mages
Yeah.
that had just dominion over any kind of lore he wanted. But when it came to creating a race of people, he messed up bad.
Whoopsie-doodled.
Yeah.
Whoopsie doodle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's how you
I
get the
like
Einith Deepkin.
Yeah.
Like, create them,
Right.
But they originally were the souls of the people that worship the god of the sea for elves,
Interesting.
and so they were like one of the last to get
It's like the
eaten
big
because-
turtle was a worshiper, or they just ran
No,
with that.
yeah, they're just
Yeah,
It's what they found in the
draw,
depths.
yeah.
But
Can you imagine that process?
Yeah.
But they're like the last meeting, so they're the first to come up. Tyrion got a hold of them. They were still pretty oceanically inclined. But he created them. He messed up real bad, and he's like, "Well, time to start over." And like, wait, what? And so they just ran and hit.
Yeah, no, it was literally like, these guys are messed up. I need to take care of them. Luke Skywalker to Kylo Ren
Yes,
kind of
that-
thing.
Right,
Where Tyrion's just waving the executioner axe, and the Einith, what you doing? Tyrion's just like, nothing. and so obviously the Idoneth panic, and they're like, "All right, Dad, we're going." Like, and Tyrion's like chasing after them with like a butcher's cleaver and be like, "No, kids, come back. Let me fix you."
Yeah,
It's like Leatherface with the
Yeah.
chains on. Like, I'm not gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
much.
But once again, like, so when we talk about these end times events, like these companies, these stories can more or less like fix things. Magic. All right, guys. Big spoiler warning for Magic. All right, so at the end of War for the Spark, what ends up happening after all the damage, after all the catastrophe and all that, Nicol Bolas ends up getting sealed away. And so he loses his power, gets put in a prison, and that's kind of where the story ends. Ravnica is safe but decimated. Nicol Bolas is put away, and some characters have left the setting, lost powers, changed allegiances, but they are still roughly either at the same power level they were before,
Okay.
or maybe a little bit less, so the story can move forward. One big bag has been sealed away, and the Magic setting can now build up another one.
So
You know.
the neat thing is Nicol Bolas' brother, Ugin,
Yeah.
is all about like, let's try to keep this as close to status quo as possible.
Yeah, all about balance.
Yeah. So if you kill Nikki B,
Yeah. There's a power vacuum.
yeah, there might not like he's a giant power player.
Yeah.
So if you get rid of him entirely, there might be something later down the road that you're like, dang, I really wish I had Nikki B here.
Now,
Yeah.
I have known nothing about Magic
Yeah.
at all, except that it's a card game, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
How do I learn about the universe? Wikipedia.
So many books.
Yeah,
Wikipedia will
yeah.
help you.
So, Magic actually releases articles on a weekly basis, going on the setting, the fluff.
Wow.
There's been comics, there's been books, online articles, things like that, kind of encompassing the overall fluff. But
Anyone in the comments have a good YouTuber that does those like overviews?
Yeah.
'Cause I like to
Yeah.
listen to those while I'm working.
Yeah. Crash course for Magic is that there's people called Planeswalkers.
Okay.
And they're going to be
As in Planes of Existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so think of them like Jedi, right? Like, it's incredibly rare, but it's incredibly powerful if
Right.
you happen to have this ability.
Gotcha.
And the one qualification is that you have to be some form of natural sentient life.
Okay.
So constructs, things that are not necessarily born.
Do they also wear plain clothes?
So
Gotta be born with one.
yeah, cannot be born with them. And what happens is something traumatic happens, or there's a big event that triggers your planeswalking ability and allows you to go to different realms of existence.
It is typically a near-death experience.
Yeah,
Interesting.
different realms of existence, and you're usually a powerful wizard of some sort.
Like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually what happened was you as the player, in Magic, you were the planeswalker.
Yeah.
So that's why you're able to like summon all these.
Yes,
guys.
yeah.
That was originally.
That's interesting. Okay.
And then they came out with named planeswalkers like
Uh-huh.
Jace or Liliana. Those are some of the two
I'm
biggest
familiar
characters.
with Liliana.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why they have loyalty counters, because
Yeah.
you're supposed to be on
Friends
par
with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Oh.
when you use or ask them to do something that they like to do anyways,
Uh-huh.
their loyalty is going to go up. If you're like, hey, I know you can do this, but it's kind of a hassle, their loyalty is
It's
going
like
to
a
go down.
Bioware game.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. It's like the old Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, and it's really cool. But the setting basically takes place across multiple realms of existence.
Okay.
Some they go to once, some they go back to multiple times.
Now, are these is those similar to D&D realms?
Yeah.
Where like it has different aspects to it, or
Exactly.
different properties, I should
Yeah,
say.
there's different properties. Sometimes every race is present. Sometimes, there might be a realm where there's no goblins, or there might be a realm where there's no elves or
Spiders.
Spiders
That'd be
are
nice.
They're gonna be everywhere.
yeah, spiders are pretty constant. But sometimes, let's say we're going to the world of Mirrodin, right?
Okay.
Mirrodin used to be an entirely artificial planet.
Well, that's cool.
So, when you went to a Mirrodin forest,
Uh-huh.
it was these growing, clockwork trees kind of thing.
And imagine rolling plains where the just bare ground is like honeycomb metal plates.
Yeah. And so it was an entire world like that. And so
With, like, razor
these phenomenon were natural to that planet. and still exuded the same kind of energy as other worlds like forests and plains and things like that. But once again, we're all metallic, non-organic.
So then,
Yeah.
looping that back to the whole end times thing, after how many years of lore have there been with Magic? How old is it now?
Yeah, it's from the 90s.
90s,
so,
right.
Yeah. So once again, it's about the same age time as Warhammer Fantasy, where it's getting onto that 30-year
Kind of
mark.
has a natural process
Yeah.
where they have to reset
And
things a little bit.
Nicol Bolas was present in the very beginning of the game. You know, he was introduced, and then he was kind of like a shadowy figure. Then he started becoming more present, and then, like in the last couple of years, we're like, oh, we know he's up
Yeah.
to something, and he's moving forward with his plans. So he, this is kind of a great time. Once again, it brings everyone back in because they're like, I can see the conclusion of the story, and then the idea is to launch a new story and get people excited, equally as excited and invested in that, so they stay through the conclusion of that. But that's where kind of the end times thing scares folks, right? Because Warhammer Fantasy was like, the conclusion of the story arc, we're done. See you guys. Like, you lost.
Get over
Stay
it.
tuned for the next game.
Yeah.
And once
Unless
again,
you really liked
yeah.
Chaos, which I
Yeah.
do, you know.
but even then,
Archaon is awesome.
Cows.
Chaos is kind of like self-defeating in a sense, right?
Yeah.
You know, like
We did
all
it.
right,
We won, guys. What do we do next?
well, like now everything's kind of destroyed
Yeah.
and going wild. Woo! So
It's like Gungans.
yeah.
You know, after a while, what's the point?
No.
Oh,
But the neat thing is, even in Age of Sigmar, they bring characters from the old world back. Like,
Correct, yeah.
There's characters that you're like, how do they even live that long? He's like, well, you see, the god kind of sealed them away, took them with him, and just like threw them into the new place. So
Yeah.
like, you know,
That's not
go,
too bad.
Go out there and have fun. Yeah, Thanquil the rat was kind of like tucked away by the great horned rat.
Yeah.
Just like,
Are all the vampire
Throw 'em
counts
back in.
still around? Like,
sort of, kind
yeah,
of.
there's Manfred is still around.
Yeah.
Nefertata.
Neferata, yeah.
Neferata, sorry,
yeah,
is still-
Neferata was, she was brought up to the status of like a Mortarch,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
she's kind of like beyond just a regular vampire now.
What's
so.
hilarious with Manfred, though, he's like, I'm going to betray Nagash. He's like, instead of being like, you're done.
Yeah.
He's like, you're still a Mortarch, but man, am I going to make your unending life miserable.
Yeah. It's like, hey, Manfred. And he's like, what, Nagash? And Nagash is like, clean the pooper.
And he has to.
Yeah. But,
so what are you hoping for after the current end times for Warhammer Hordes?
So with War Machine and Hordes, one of the nice things is that they did announce Riot Quest.
Uh-huh.
So with the time magic and all that, they mentioned that Riot Quest is in the future where things go bad
Yeah.
with the Oblivion storyline.
Okay.
So with the Oblivion storyline, things can't go, hopefully, too bad, right?
Gotcha.
So,
So the
like-
idea is that that's the extreme negative.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Riot Quest is the extreme negative. The worst possible scenario happens, and this is down the line in the future where people are kind of picking up the pieces from there. So, hoping with Oblivion, once again, it is going to reset those allegiances. It's going to reset the power level of the setting. So maybe the Infernals are pushed back. So the big bads will be like, "We'll get you next time, War Machine," and like they're off into space.
Yeah.
And once again, that's perfectly fine. Because in these miniature war games, you have to give a reason to keep people fighting.
Right.
And like, so in the story,
There could be remnants of the Infernals.
is,
that are on the
exactly.
planet, Yeah.
And so if you think about it, these two nations were always known for being at war. Sometime in the story, they're like, hey, we need to put our differences aside, join together, fight against Krix, the evil undead race. And then after Krix was defeated, they're like, cool, we're going to keep this alliance going. And everyone's just like, are things getting peaceful? Or like, is an armistice going to be called? Like, and so they had to find a way to once again reignite war, reignite the reason why these folks are fighting against each other. So,
Right.
So
Interesting.
the upheaval and
yeah, so it was the Lael, like,
Yeah.
right? So,
The revolutionaries.
yes, yeah. The French country, the pseudo French country that was taken over by the pseudo Russians. The protagonist of the game basically found an heir
Yeah.
and hid them away from the Russians, and were like, "Hey, Russians, if we ever find an heir to Lael, can we take it? Can they have it back?" And the Russians were like, "Yeah, sure.
Good luck with
Assassinate
that.
all the heirs."
Yeah.
And so it was kind of this race where Khador, the pseudo-Russians, were trying to remove all possible heirs to Lael, where Signar already had an heir in hiding
Ah,
in their
interesting.
borders.
so they'd be like, oh, so kill all the heirs. Like, yes, we completely agree to your terms. Wonderful. What about this guy? Oh, damn it.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, and so once again that reignited war
Or is
because
a
Right.
chick, right?
yeah, it was a princess.
Yeah.
And so
Not a dude.
you know, Kador's just like, you done tricked us, and Signar's like, well, you agreed to this,
Right.
you know, like,
Right.
You bamboozled me last time. You.
yeah. And so once again, it reignites that reason for war between those two countries, and that's one of the reasons why 40K never really moved the story forward a lot. One, there's so much story in the background, but like, you can't have like a resolution between the Imperium and Chaos.
Right.
No matter what,
Yeah.
there's always going to be some faction of Imperium and some faction of Chaos
Right.
that have to battle against each other. Now, they can change, like, you know, it can be Magnus and the Thousand Sons, and then for some reason Gilman tricks Magnus into an eternal maze, right? But then, hey, Mortarian's back up, you know,
Right.
like, and maybe Gilman's off doing paperwork for the Imperium, and the Dark Angels come up to fight, you know? So, like, it's something to keep the story going,
Yeah.
but not necessarily removing the current stakes of the world or consistently raising them, right? It's resetting, rebalancing, and doing all that. So.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to have Death to the Emperor just get all right with save Pop Pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
you're kind of trying to kill what I love the best.
I feel like
the most.
end times for 40K would be the Emperor officially dying.
Yeah, either the Emperor dying or coming back.
I love the theories
Well,
of what
dying
will
and then
happen.
coming back, yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
reincarnation or just
Uh-huh.
becoming a Chaos God of Order.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. those
Well,
were
and
theories.
and that's something that would be very
It's the strangest
end times for
oxymoron
40K.
I've ever
Yeah.
heard. Chaos God of Order.
Yeah.
That's the Seraphon in
Right,
Age
right.
of Sigmar. So,
You know, shivers.
but there's a lot of things that they can do to basically like do those big narrative events without having to do something too drastic, right? But the point of all of this is to get people interested and invested in the game that they're playing. It's a way to increase sales, push marketing, because hey, don't you want to be there when the when the
Right.
world blows up?
So,
we were all there.
Yeah.
Like me, Mark, David, everyone who was in or remotely close to fantasy.
I can imagine you looking at the TV and having a countdown time.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 10, 9, and then down at 0, and then it says game
So
over.
it's like, no!
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And so it was one of those things where we remember it, and a lot of gamers remember it, and it's important to say not
I was
everything
there.
yeah well not everything is going to end that way,
Yeah.
right? You know, like when we have these big story elements, it's not going to be like the end.
So one thing that just crossed my mind though was thousands upon thousands of psychers are sacrificed to the Emperor each day.
Yeah.
When they stop, that's gonna be a lot of psychers let loose that are like just
Yeah.
aren't really
Yeah.
put down anymore. So is humanity just gonna?
well, maybe the Emperor's like golden beacon or whatever like comes back so strong that people can be psychers without it being negative.
Oh God! So granted,
Fascinating.
keep this in mind. In the end times, anyone could be a necromancer.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So now, if anyone could
Yeah.
be a psyker in 40K,
yeah,
that would be insane.
It's like
Millions of guardsmen just...
Yeah, just like
yeah.
nine
all-
bullets.
Everyone
That'd be
just
kinda
has
cool.
smite.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh God, that would be terrible. You like I can imagine. So it is acceptable to have like a 90% casualty rate in a unit. Like that's in good parameters
Yeah.
for Imperial
I
Guard.
was saying 100 is fine.
Yeah. So like smiting and like hitting your own guys, you'd be like, they're just practicing. It's all right.
Yeah, if anything else, you got to hit your enemy's preset kill limit. So
Yeah.
it don't matter how many guards go as long as that limit gets hit.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so with all this, because the reason why I wanted to talk about this, the reason why I brought it up is one, it's a catchy title.
Aw, yeah.
Two, people were legitimately concerned about their games.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, do you know if they're like? I had the question, do you know if they're end timesing Magic or War Machine? And I'm like, no, because these companies need money.
Right.
They
Move
like to
things
keep
forward.
keep going, moving things forward, doing all that sort of stuff. So it's really important to get things be exciting, to get people into it, and draw new folks in. A lot of these events, the War for the Spark was great for getting returning players in because it's all of your favorite characters. Well, hey, when those returning players come in, it builds that snowball, it builds momentum, it gets people interested. And so someone's like, why are so many people playing that game over there? It's this great war that's going on. You know, like come in and join it and do all this. So, you know, these are all ways to get folks interested into the game again. So
I mean, Game of Thrones Season 8's the end, and everyone's watching it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm not. Gonna wait till it's all over and then binge watch.
Yeah.
All at once.
All right, good luck avoiding the spoilers.
Yeah.
So we still have a few more minutes, and we're going to talk about some new releases, events that are coming up. Important today, if you want to play Wild West Exodus, today
Yeah.
starting at 2, we're going to have a demo set here. I've got it open, so you got the rule set, got ruler, tokens. I've almost fully painted up, at least base coated the models.
Yeah,
So,
come fight with robot puppies and
with
and
missile launchers and Gatling guns on them.
mechanical cowboys. Wild
very
West
cool.
Exodus is a really fun setting. It's a great kind of steampunky book. Here, I'll get out of the way. Let
Yeah.
you guys.
Come, Mark. Star Wars Allies and Adversaries. So this is for the role playing from Fantasy Flight. So a lot of good stuff here. This is the beach troopers that are on the planet. I think there's Wookiees in here and everything. So whole bunch. Got the bounty hunters, IG-88. So it's very, very nice. Smells
And then-
good too.
Yeah, and then we have the counterpart. If you like the fantasy, we have Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle Earth, which has, if you flip it around, a beautiful board
It's nice.
with beautiful miniatures.
Yep. Now, it requires a digital companion app, like a lot of the new FFG stuff, but that just makes it work better.
Yep.
It keeps it smooth, keeps it going. If you've played Mansions of Madness, I think it's similar to that in the fact that, it gives you certain random things.
Oh, yeah.
You put it together in a certain way. I think depending on scenarios, very similar to Mansions of Madness. I did a very brief demo at Gamma.
But yeah,
a
you
little
can
bit
do
ago.
this with a laptop, a tablet, or a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. It works on all those, and it has it in Amazon, Google Play, Steam, and the App Store
Oh,
for
heck yeah.
Apple. So even on
Sweet.
Steam, so you don't have to worry about like app compatibility.
Right.
You can just have it as
Bring
an
your
actual
laptop.
program. Yeah.
Yep, that's easy. GW releases, we got some of the new stuff. I guess standalones. What's this? Oil War. Yes. Team Yankee.
Oil War.
So if you don't play either Team Yankee or Flames of War, they're 15 mil games and super huge. And we have Marlon, who is our champion, right? And he is helping us World War III in the Middle East. That's amazing.
Yep.
Oh, super cool. Is this
The,
a campaign book?
Goes from Cold War to Hot War, essentially. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
It was
that one's
described
out.
as weird to me because in this reality, the U.S. has to team up with Iraq and Iran, so they have British
Wow.
and American vehicles because they're all trying to fight the Russians.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ah, Mortal Gods, skirmish games in ancient Greece. So this one has a smaller scale. Oh, that's weird. It's a flipper upside down. Gonna show it this way. Yeah. Okay. Now see if you can see that that way. Nice. So nice models. What are these guys made? What other game that we have on the shelf?
No, Mortal Gods is a new game.
Yeah, but what company?
Footsore Miniatures
Footsore. That's the one.
is a new company, but they're bringing out historicals.
They were Warbanner, but GW forced them to change their name.
Oh.
But they're using Victrix models, and they just
Uh-huh.
put in a big Victrix order.
Nice.
I
So then
put
you
the
can
Victrix
get
coming.
yeah.
Yeah. But,
So this one's good. It's a skirmish
Mortal Gods
size.
is great for this. It's great for any historical game, really. So.
Oh, I love it.
Saga, the new Alvaro, or local player, is putting out Clash of Spears.
Oh, sweet.
Spears? Is that what it's called? Which is his own historical.
Uh-huh.
So that's releasing soon.
Very nice.
So
Man, Atlanta's the place to be for
great
gaming,
models
huh?
for that stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that Lord of the Rings one. Is there anything else that came with that Lord of the Rings one? I don't think so.
Base copy right
Yep.
now.
And the GW releases are basically for the next week or two, David, is mostly the sets for, not Shadespires.
Back again. Haha.
Hey,
This week is Fire Slayers
that's right.
and Chaos Lords Heroes.
So
and then next
exciting.
week is Warhammer on the Worlds.
Uh-huh.
And they're bringing in the
Individual
Lord of
rings.
Rings. Lord of
Caradon
Rings.
Overlords and
Uh-huh.
the elf, the wood elf
Yeah.
faction.
Yep.
They're
And
the
Lord
two
of
for
Rings
those.
models. There's next week they're doing made to order Lord of the Rings, so older models are coming back for 1 week
nice.
only. So we have to take pre-orders for those if you want them.
Yes, pre-order.
That's it next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big Slanesh release is probably going to be May 4th,
Probably
right?
later. Yeah.
In the early May? Yeah, I would assume
Oh,
so.
and then no, the week after that is Titanicus. That's Titanicus New Terrain.
In May?
Oh yeah, they're bringing
No,
out
Whatever's
the
after
27th.
Next, whatever's after next week,
So this is the 20th.
or is next
Right.
week. Sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
this is the 19th today. Tomorrow's the
Hey.
20th.
Stay tuned, guys, for the
27th.
proper date.
Yeah.
But then the week after that, we're thinking is probably going to be Slanesh. I mean, that's what our guesstimate.
There's articles now starting to come out for
Right. So usually when there's articles out, it's typically like 3 weeks away,
Yeah.
3 weeks to a month. Yeah. But I'm excited about it because I got my butt whooped last night in Age of Sigmar. Had my Beast Claw Raiders, and then the little Slanesh Demonettes were coming
God,
at
yeah.
me, and they get to attack twice with a command point. So then they, swarm in, and then they have the weird mounted lizard things.
Yeah.
That have a banner for a -1 to hit aura.
They're not the Seekers, are they?
Maybe, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
They're irritating and
Yeah.
fast. So they were within 6 inch of my war boss dude, and so he's hitting on like 5s, and so he hits hardly anything, and he whiffs on all of these demonettes, and they just claw him to death. 13 wounds all at once,
Yeah.
gone, completely gone. So yeah, that battle tome should be good for Slaanesh. So make sure we'll let you know when to pre-order that one if you like Slaanesh at all. You should be able to play those models also in 40K too.
The only reason I could even think of playing Slaanesh right now with what I have would be just to talk like Hedonism Bot from Futurama the entire time I play.
Ah, nice. All right, y'all. So that's a lot of the new stuff. Make sure you come by the store if you can. Play this weekend. Today, Wild West Exodus demos. Got events also through the weekend. If you want to run an event, you have to make sure to submit a form. We are pretty jam-packed. Even we're booking months out ahead of time, so make sure, especially for weekends, that you go ahead and do an event request, and we're going to let you know how space is. Because I think we're booking through June or July now. Is that right, David?
Yes.
Yep. So we're booking through June and July, so make sure if you're wanting a weekend event, especially, to go ahead and do that. Cool, y'all. So thanks for joining us today. We're going to be back on with a stream of a tutorial of Wild West Exodus early this afternoon. So if you want to see it played before you come give it a try yourself, you can check out our stream later. All right, bye, everybody.